my talk. This is new to me. Normally, I give the additive introduction, and I talk a bit about digital manufacturing as a whole, but I thought I'd use this space to really deep dive into an area that I've been thinking a lot about in the last 12, 18 months, and that's compacting the art-to-part value chain. And Valerie is going to build on that with actual examples later on. And to do that, I think I'm going to go back to why I started Authentize. So Authentize is a process automation software company, and we'll talk a bit about what we do. But before I ran Authentize, I ran a VC fund in Nigeria. And just before I left, in 2012, a plane crashed, 160 people died because it takes a minimum of 3 days to get a spare part into the country. And I thought, wow, that's crazy. My wife ran an oil company, and they lost $30 million in 4 months because a part broke, and the company that made it went out of business 17 years before. So I'm just thinking, supply chains suck. We've got to fix that. So, of course, being half German, I thought, well, the first thing to do is to secure this environment and then allow people to actually start printing their parts in remote locations. So that's what we did. We built security software for 3D printing. But after a while, we found out that our biggest client was sexshop3d.com. And that really wasn't what we were aiming for. So we had to reach out and see what else was out there. And that was really our first pivot. We had to really understand what was the market need today versus what was the market need in the future. And I think that's a transition that a lot of companies will have to go through after they've been inspired by what we've been talking about at Singularity in the last few days. So what we did is we took our technology stack and we started offering it to the clients we really wanted to have. The Nikes of the world, the Caterpillars, the GEs, and we asked them, what do you want to do with these microservices that we've built? And what struck me was how incredibly innovative the people were in responding to those questions. Right? So we were going to the operator level of additive manufacturing facilities that were printing 20,000, 30,000, 40,000, 50,000 units a year. And we were asking them, how can we make your life easier? What assembly of these modules will make you happy? And they answered 20 examples, 30, not all of them, maybe 30, 40% of them had real-life examples straight away, off the bat, and a lot of them. And so the first one we built for this company was allowing them to understand how much money they were saving the company by printing internally versus externally without sharing the IP outside of their company, by finding a similar design to every design they were printing, and then sharing that externally, getting quotes for it, and comparing it to internal quotes. Right? So that way they had a really transparent benchmark of what was going on. And next, we serialized every part automatically, even if they were different shapes. The next, we automatically nested them. So we allowed them to reduce costs, get a better product, so same-day delivery for their internal prototyping clients, and become more transparent in the process. Very quickly, based on simply one thing, operator feedback. This is the guy that's running the machines. He knows it all. He knows what problems he's facing. And that's what started really striking me. Recently, we've had to build this interface because our sales process was too long, so we had to build an interface on top of the modules, and that really kicks me. Because interfaces are the antithesis to automation. Right? If you look at what we're doing with interfaces, is we're making people click things. Right? Every click is not an automation step. And we're doing it within hierarchical structures. Often software is used to enforce certain behaviors. Right? It's not used to make somebody's life easier. It's used to enforce certain behaviors. And we're doing that not in a central location to make their life easier so they can control everything from a dashboard. No, we're not even connecting the machines. In some cases, even if they are connected, we're forcing people to operate them from a screen directly connected to the device. And if they are connected, they end up that data from the machines ends up being used as dashboards. Right? And think about dashboards. Dashboards in a manufacturing context where your production planning cycle may be between 6 months to 2 years. What impact do dashboards really have? Yes, I'm sure PTC has told you all about the savings that they can generate for you by giving you analytics. But in reality, transforming an insight from analytics into action on the shop floor in a production cycle that takes you multiple months or years could take forever. Right? So you're not getting that direct ROI that you could get from the operator feedback. Right? Dashboards don't help the human. They help the company in certain ways, but not in the ways that we are hoping them to. What we really need to do to start unlocking that benefit is going back to where the insight actually sits, the human level, and start unlocking that insight, that creativity. You know, this is not just something that we're thinking up. It's kind of crucial to survival of major companies. I'm sure you've heard of this statistic published by McKinsey that says that only 5% of occupations can be automated, but 50% of tasks can be automated, which by default means we need to work with humans to understand which of those tasks can be automated and get them to automate them for us. Because there's no way anybody can, from top down, predict what tasks can be automated and go about doing it without letting anybody know. That doesn't work that way. We need to work with our workers. And we found that at Authentize. You know, what we did was effectively go and say, there's an operator, he has a fantastic automation idea, and we are compacting the time it takes to get that idea, turn that idea into reality. Because previously, he'd have to go to his IT department, fight with them a little bit, and they'd be like, oh no, I'm busy with a 10-year Oracle implementation, leave me alone. And you'd have to go along and actually kind of harass them, and eventually maybe they'll do one of these 10 ideas that are coming up. And we went along and said, you know, within your discretionary budget, we can, due to the fact that we have these cost savings, as we're using standardized modules, we can get you your automation concepts relatively quickly, right? So we're reducing that. But there's still friction, right? Because I have to go along and I have to work with the IT group to get it implemented. I have to actually code the different modules together and make it work. So there are still friction elements involved in that process, and that's something that I still feel is not the ideal state. So this is where we want to go. We want to enable the operator to create those automation opportunities by themselves, to create their own automation workflows. And there's a lot of examples of ways in which people are already doing that. Right? If you think about creating a website these days, I don't know who has, it's a drag and drop experience. If you think about controlling a robot, whether it's Lego Mindstorms or other robots, it's a drag and drop experience. This is no technical experience required, straight to the point, very quickly to execute. Loads of examples like this. When I fly to the UK, my wife lives in London, my phone automatically detects that I'm in London. It sends a text message to all my team saying, Andre's in London, don't wake him up. And there are many examples like this that are personal automation opportunities that, if this and that is one of the websites that does it, can create for you. So, and even here, computer games or video games created by 5-year-old kids through Scratch or other programs like that are great examples of how quick and easy it is for people to create automation workflows. And that's something I want to build on. And so this is the next step for us. It's the opportunity to actually sit down and take the modules that we've created, plus dozens more, and say, operator, you tell me what the computer should be doing. If that machine makes a certain noise, then send a text message, alert my supervisor, get ready to turn on the light, turn on a warning light. You know? Or if I get a certain order, look through the file, find me similar design files, and then let me know how much I quoted for those similar design files last time, or what setup I used, or you know, how well I performed, what problems arose. Right? These are things that the operator knows to ask for, but doesn't have the tools to do. So what we want to be able to enable, and the more friction I have in the system, even though I've optimized the creation of workflows at Authentize to this point, I still have so much friction in the system that these relatively minute examples of automation aren't being executed because there's too much cost involved. Right? And there are companies out there that have spent years paying consultants to understand all their workflows. And now they have binders full of workflows, 20, 30,000, that they know exist, but they don't know how to deal with because the IT department is already overloaded. The truth is, we need to start helping the operator automate those workflows rather than us going and trying to do that from the top down. Because what you end up when you go top down is factories like these. They look very highly automated, but in reality, they're not agile at all. Right? They make one car, and if I want to make another car, I have to wait a couple of months and spend $100 million to retool the factory. And so what we've been creating by using technology are kind of islands of automation, islands of technology that are bound together with very strongly bound chains, so to speak. And I think that if we start unlocking the potential of a more agile automation that is operator-centric, we can actually deal with some of the the drivers towards agility that we're seeing in the market. Every company I've spoken to at this event says, yes, my SKU numbers are expanding, I have to make more parts, but at lesser volumes, right? And the reality is, if that trend continues, I can't cope if I have fixed chains connecting my islands of technology, my islands of automation. I need to rely on the human to start connecting some of these concepts to me, for me. And the benefit of doing that is that I already have micro-tasks within the factory, loads of them, right? And by connecting them to an automatic, an automatic orchestrated environment, I can get to a point when, yes, I start reducing the production planning cycle from years to months to weeks. That's the opportunity, right? Because then I can do two things. First, the first thing that comes to mind is always distributed manufacturing. I can enable an environment where I can make parts locally. That's great. As you can tell, that's what I started the company for. That's what I want to continue to do. But it's more than that, too. It's the ability to go and say, hey, if I want a product right now, I don't have to go through a certification, design, and manufacturing process to get it done. If the patient rolls off the CT scanner, I can have the implant printing, customized implant printing for him before he's even reached the operating theater. And the operation can start straight away, right? Or this is a project that I want to do as we're in the next 12 months. It's designing a shoe based on your Fitbit data, your calendar, your weather report, what you ate that day, right? So the algorithm knows I'm feeling pretty heavy. I had a burger last night. I'm going to have to be speaking on a stage, and then I have to go meet the Prime Minister of Malaysia later on, but it's raining outside, and I have to go running. And, well, OK, they print me a shoe that's perfect for my day, right? And that's, OK, a far-out example that may not meet the current market demand, but the reality is we have the ability to make new products very, very rapidly. That's where agility ends up going. It doesn't stay with a phone every 128 days. It stays with a phone every 50 days, every 40 days, to meet that rapidly evolving technology demand that you've heard about in the last 3 days.